Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph, and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. So yesterday I did a video on copper, and it got me thinking, how much copper do I actually have? And I'm really not sure. I estimate around 35 pounds, but this week we're going to find out. I say this week, but it really could take longer than that. Gosh, I really hope it doesn't take longer than that. Before I start counting all these, I'm going to give a shout out to Alan Satoshi for being the first comment on my last video. Congratulations. Make sure you find Alan down in the comments and start a conversation with him. So while I am organizing and counting all of this copper, I'm going to talk about a few copper facts that I missed in my last video. Yesterday was about copper in general, and today is going to be about American copper. So America circulated copper until 1982. That year, the United States switched to a copper-plated zinc coin because copper was becoming too expensive for the 1-cent coin. The start of using 95% copper dates all the way back to the Civil War in 1864. So any 1 cent that you find all the way from 1864 until 1982 has the same standard of copper. It's 95% copper and it weighs 3.11 grams. However, just like anything, there are some nuances, like the fact that there were actually two different copper alloys used during this time. Yes, it was still 95% copper, and yes, it was still 3.11 grams. However, it went between a bronze and a brass. So let's get real technical. If the other 5% contains any tin, that's a bronze. But if it does not contain tin, it's brass. So in 1864, the original alloy was actually a bronze. It was 95% copper, and the remaining 5% was allowed to be 50-50 split of zinc and tin. That makes it a bronze. So they ran with this alloy all the way until World War II, all the way until 1943. And if anyone's familiar with wheat cents, 1943, they actually made them out of steel. They were trying to use the copper for the war efforts during World War II. So that's also a specialty coin, the steel cents. And as you can see in the bottom right corner there, I did have a few that I'm storing right there in the bottom right corner. But so these steel cents during World War II, it was only 1943. After 1943, they actually continued making them out of copper, but this time they used the brass casings from the ammunition of the military training facilities, so that way they could get the copper back after using it for the military efforts. So during 1944, 45, and 46, they were all made out of these ammo casings, which are brass, not bronze. So the remaining 5% was only zinc. In 1947, after using up all of the ammunition casing, they went back to minting them in a bronze with this 2.5% tin. That actually stayed the alloy all the way until 1961. In 1961, they went back to removing the tin because even the 2.5% tin that was in the 1 cent was too expensive to remain in there. So they took it back to a brass. So technically, most of these coins are dated after 1961. They are actually a brass that contains 95% copper. If I was going to be really hardcore, I would definitely separate the brass from the bronze, but this is already enough of a project, and I really don't think it's going to matter if I ever need to trade these. So how much am I really counting here? My goal was to go to 10 pounds, but I didn't realize I had so much sorting to do, so I ended up going to 5 pounds. Right, so 1 pound is just shy of 154 coins. If I multiply that out to 5 pounds, it ended up getting me 768 coins. So So 768 coins makes 5 pounds of copper. So since all of these coins I found coin roll hunting, I paid $7.68 for these 5 pounds of copper, and at today's melt value, 5 pounds of copper is worth $26.70. And now that I've finally laid out all of these coins, I can finally get to my show and tell. Today's Friday, and remember, I dollar cost average 20% of my income every week into precious metals, and since I get paid on Thursdays, I get to show you guys what I got every Friday. So I've started to focus a little bit more on platinum. I picked up this platinum gram, and that puts my total at 9.11 grams, or 6 grams and a 1/10 ounce platinum. I'm really starting to like the idea of platinum, and I'm wanting to raise it to be somewhere between 3 and 5% of my portfolio. After this purchase, I think I'm at 0.9% of my portfolio, so we are slowly inching that way. Let me know which you prefer of the grams. Do you like these little 1 grams or the larger 1 grams in the larger assays? I think if I'm going to be stacking a whole bunch of them, I might prefer the smaller ones, but I really do like how the window looks in this larger 1 gram card. So I'm a little conflicted. Let me know what you think. Next up, I've also committed to buying $1 in face value in 90% silver every week. I'm doing that in a rotation of dimes the first week of the month, quarters the second week, $half the third week, which is this week, and $1 next week, which is the fourth week. So this time I was able to pick up 2 $half, and my strategy was to grab the oldest one and the best looking Walking Liberty. So I ended up with this 1893 O Barber $half and a 1945 Walking Liberty. I was also able to pick up 1.35 ounces of generic silver, and I really like this 50th anniversary of the Roosevelt dime. So it looks like this is actually made by Whitman, which I also found really, really interesting. But this is the first time I've seen a generic coin based on the Roosevelt dime. There are lots that are based on the Mercury dime, but I've never seen one off the Roosevelt dime, and I just finished that collection, so I was really looking for something like this. I'm really excited to get to have it. It's an awesome addition to my collection. I also was able to pick up a 1/4 ounce and a 1/10 ounce. So here's one with the Statue of Liberty and a Walking Liberty design on this 1/10 ounce. I really like the larger diameter coins. This 1/4 ounce is a bit thick, which means the diameter is smaller, but it's still a good size. Well, so now that all of this is counted, how do I store it? That's really the only reason I haven't been counting all this before, but I got these jars that I'm going to be storing them in. I think they can hold 10 pounds. It might be a little more, but that's why I was aiming for 10 pounds today. So I'm just going to fill half of it with 5 pounds and then the other half another day. But as you can see, I was struggling with how I should really put this in there the best way. I eventually just started scooping them all up and throwing them in there as fast as I could. Anyway, as you can see, this is slowly filling up. I now have 5 pounds here in this jar, and it could definitely hold 10 pounds. We'll see if I want to put any more than that in there, but these 5 pounds represent day 1 of counting my copper stack, which is actually just a very small dent. So thank you for sticking through this video. Make sure you like, comment, and share, and subscribe, and like all the comments, and comment on the other comments, and like all the likes, and comment on the comments, and share everyone's who's subscribed. Go ahead and hit all the buttons. But always remember, every ounce adds up. So no matter how small, just keep stacking.